Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I am the founder and CEO of Thymos Health. We are your preeminent autoimmune specialists. We can reverse these complex chronic diseases using precision and personalized medicine. Okay. I am the firstborn of parents who moved from Mumbai, India to New Jersey in the early 70s to pursue the American dream. Unwilling to accept the racism that was holding back many immigrants in the Northeast, my parents moved us to a small town in West Virginia to run a motel in the ghetto. Like most families around us, my parents worked constantly. The word vacation did not exist in our native language, Gujarati. Terrified that something terrible would happen to us, they forbid my sister and I from playing outside with the other kids. Trapped, not able to run around, play sports, or even participate in extracurricular activities. TV was my best friend. But the thing is, boredom does terrible things to a child's mind. In second grade, my teacher, Mrs. Brown, complained that I was like the other ghetto children, a failure. Ashamed, my parents enrolled me into the neighborhood school. Even more bored and frustrated, I completely lost hope. Heartbroken, my father took me aside and said, "Payal, if you don't like the way things are, then do something about it. But please, make us proud." My parents re-enrolled me into Mrs. Brown's classroom. This time, I decided to stop failing. But what no one understood was that I could not see the chalkboard, and I have dyslexia. Struggling to see letters and numbers clearly was all I knew. Luckily, in 5th grade, my teacher, Mrs. Booker, believed in me, and she proudly told my mother, "Mrs. Shah, Payal needs eyeglasses. She is going to do amazing things." Suddenly, I could see what others couldn't. The word impossible, it actually means I'm possible. Growing up in the second poorest state in this country, I recognize that advanced medical technologies are limited. A handful of general practitioners, specialists, and 3 community hospitals in Beckley. If you needed an MRI or CT scan, you had to travel hours away to the closest medical center. This was simply not an option for most of us. At 14, I decided I wanted to be a doctor. Medicine keeps my mind curious, my gut hungry to learn more, and my body obsessed with changing my destiny. I saw that people of all ages were developing diseases that the prior generation had never heard of. I wanted to do something about it. At 25, I graduated from West Virginia University School of Medicine, got married, and moved to Massachusetts to begin my family medicine training. For years, I lived with itchy rashes and gut issues. Ignoring my body and assuming I was fine was how I survived. The thing was, in residency, I was diagnosed with autoimmune thyroiditis and familial hypercholesterolemia. None of the doctors I consulted could tell me why was my immune system attacking my organs. They just blamed it on bad genes. Well, at 28, I developed aggressive breast cancer right after giving birth. Imagine holding your newborn baby and being told you have 6 months to live. I felt like a failure. That my child would grow up without a mother? Luckily, my family helped me escape death, and they guided me through a year of suffering postpartum depression. Now fast forward a few years. I am living my best life in San Francisco, working with a great family doctor. Bang! Both of my daughters are diagnosed with autoimmune disorders. Maya, age 6, developed autoimmune-induced ovarian tumor. The treatment has caused infertility. Zara, at 2, was diagnosed with idiopathic chronic urticaria. The standard medication treatment increases her lifetime risk of cancer. I felt like a failure for not protecting my children. Obsessed with finding anything that would reverse my children's condition took me on a 15-year journey to get answers. Having launched the first accountable care organization in San Francisco, and then building the city's largest private integrative functional medical center, I successfully treated over 10,000 autoimmune patients, driving 5 times better health outcomes than standard health care. What I realized was devastating and undeniable. Autoimmune disorders are not rare. 1 in 4 of us suffers from an autoimmune disease. 80% women. Females have an 85% chance of developing an autoimmune disorder in their lifetime. In many places in this country, it can take 10 years to get a diagnosis. 76% are misdiagnosed, and less than 1/3 respond to standard treatment. Delayed care leads to half developing complications such as infertility, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and severe multi-organ damage. People are getting sicker every year, with the incidence of autoimmunity rising at 19% annually. The typical journey for an autoimmune patient is that they see 6 specialists, are prescribed more side effect written drugs, and spend countless hours and exorbitant money in discoordinated medical systems. Despite doing everything right, they feel like a failure. Conventional medicine is failing us. Science has already unearthed the answers, and AI can surface the data. But when nobody is connecting the dots, standard medicine is going to continue addressing symptoms in silo and treating diseases in the late stages with generic solutions that only manage decline. Thymos Health flips this backward model from reactive, fragmented, and expensive to proactive, precise, and sustainable. We are your first virtual medical service designed to prevent and reverse over 250 autoimmune diseases and other complex chronic conditions. We understand that we've got to get a handle on this issue and not just help people know what's going on, we need to help them be on the path of disease regression. Our provider platform automates 90% of data analyses. We're talking about thousands of data points across your medical history, longitudinal labs, advanced diagnostics, and real-time whole person input. When that data is analyzed with standardized clinical workflows and rigorous autoimmune training, we are giving our physicians back the time, clarity, and confidence to empathetically connect with patients, make high-quality decisions, and oversee safety. Our data-driven whole-person model stands by you every step of your journey. We are not only just providing you proactive autoimmune specialist consultations, you are getting 24/7 clinical support and the care coordinated across your broader medical team. When you are prescribed the kind of care that is right for your data, our studies are demonstrating 80% improvement in your symptoms within 3 months, and 20% improvement in a key laboratory biomarkers after 6 months. Reduction in unnecessary tests, procedures, medical visits, acute care appointments, and pharmacy spend reduces the total healthcare cost by 80% annually. Autoimmunity is impacting so many of us, probably in this room. The solutions cannot be one size fits all, and the cause of it is also not just one. There are many factors involved. The most important is chronic mental and/or physical stress. When your mind gets filled with negative thoughts, your brain becomes overstimulated and it starts to stop talking with your gut intelligence and your heart intelligence. You become consumed with what I call the 4 C's of cancer: complaining, criticizing, comparing, and compromising. It's hard to stay focused and be fully conscious when you're ruminating on those 4 C's. You don't always listen to what your body is saying, and you learn, I'm fine. Whatever that is, it'll go away. But over time, you start to recognize it's not going away. So what happens? It impacts the quality of your sleep. You may stop playing. You spend so much time on electronics, and you become more sensitive to pollutants in the water, in the air, in the noise. Now, when you take that chronic stress and you combine it with a nutrient-poor, dehydrating diet, or what we call the standard American SAD diet, or the Western diet, your body can't handle not getting the nourishment it needs. The biggest drivers are going to be animal products, such as red meat, poultry, eggs, fish, shellfish, and dairy products. Dairy can be like cheese, yogurt, ice cream, cottage cheese, the things you see every time you walk into a grocery store or to most restaurants. But the other nutrient-poor foods is excess sugar, both artificial and natural. Too much sugar infusing into your cells does not allow the power generators, mitochondria, to harvest enough energy. It pulls the water out, and it causes cells to stop functioning properly. Others are processed fast meals where we've pulled the nutrients out so they can have a longer shelf life. They can be quick. They may be calorie dense, but they're not nourishing your gut to help you thrive. Caffeinated, carbonated, alcoholic, or sugary beverages. They are naturally designed to keep that stress level high, give you that adrenaline rush to taste really good, but they're pulling the water out of the cells. Your cells are 90% water and oxygen. They need the nourishment to work properly. When you microwave high-density foods, such as animal products or a lot of processed foods, it changes the molecular structure to be more carcinogenic. Other environmental toxins are plastics. They're everywhere. We can't not be free of plastic. It's covering our food, our beverages. We may store our food in it and heat it up in plastic. Too, it's in so many of our products, both cosmetic. But again, these are multifactorial. And then we're wanting the quick fix. It serves a purpose, many of our synthetic drugs, but it's not the only solution. One of your biggest culprits is antibiotics. They kill your healthy bacteria that are driving a large percentage of how food is digested, nutrients are absorbed, and toxic waste is excreted. One of the biggest drivers of getting exposed to antibiotics is actually in animal products. They are heavily exposed to antibiotics. So even in your marketing, it won't say that, but they have to get it because most of the food we give in our animal feed are genetically modified grains that are heavily sprayed with pesticides, have high concentration of heavy metals and other toxins. Other synthetic drugs are going to be a lot of your pain meds, both prescriptions like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and then prescription meds that are opioids. They are helping you numb what your body is screaming that it's not okay, but they're also changing how your biochemistry in your brain is working. So again, there are many products that are both prescribed, but they are also over the counter. What I want you to realize, it's not just one thing. We're not all going to be free of all of these factors. It's how we have a better understanding of how is it impacting you as an individual. Autoimmunity does not begin when you start to experience symptoms. Various environmental triggers overstimulate your nervous system. They decrease blood flow below your diaphragm, and they damage your healthy gut bacteria. Food digestion, nutrient absorption, waste excretion slows down. Toxins begin accumulating into your various organs, blood vessels, and damaged cells because you can't get it out. So if your body is not already getting a lot of injury, you're going to instead bleed out. That deposition of those toxins sometimes protects us. But what happens is that if the insults are not letting up, your immune system becomes overwhelmed. And it cannot differentiate between your own body cells and foreign invaders. Starving, dehydrated cells die early. Others mutate to survive this toxic environment. There are over 100 autoimmune disorders. They impact most organ systems, blood vessels, and cells. We're designed to have more and more vitality as we age our biological age. It's about, can you fundamentally change the cellular age for that person? Because if you went to certain parts of the world that are called the green zones, or the blue zones, you have communities where the average person lives to 100. They're super active. The biggest thing is community. Yeah, yes, they may be eating well, or they may be eating terribly, but what is it that is keeping them feeling like they can express their passionate childlike self. That their cells, our cells change every 90 days. What is it that's going to help transform it? So aging is really about how do we fundamentally shift the cellular age so cells are not starving and dehydrating and dying early. They're not mutating, that your environmental toxin load is starting to come down. That is truly what longevity is increasing your health span and your lifespan.
Thank you. Let's have a warm round of applause.